Welcome to the Writer Showcase podcast. I'm Phil Nasons, and I'm the host of this weekly podcast brought to you by the authors and you, the listening public. If you would like to be a guest on the show or would like to support the work being done here, please contact me at thewritershow.wordpress.com, and I will be in touch with you right away. Our guest tonight is the author of the crime thrillers, the DCI Jones Casebook, Raymond Francis Collins, the DCI Jones Casebook, Ellis Flynn, and the soon-to-be-released psychological thriller, The Transition of Johnny Swift. Please welcome author Kerry J. Donovan to the Writer Showcase podcast. Kerry, welcome to the podcast. How you doing, man? Welcome back.
Oh, hi, Phil. Great to speak to you again.
It's great to have you here. What's been going on since the last time you were here?
Oh, wow. Things have just gone ballistic. I just... Well, first of all, I finished the book I was talking about last time, my work in progress. That's The Transition of Johnny Swift. And I did something I didn't think I was going to do, actually. I sent it out to a new publishing impression, and they accepted it straight away. So that really knocked me out. So I've been working on finishing it, editing it, and getting it ready for launch.
So you've been picked up by a publisher.
Yeah.
Congratulations. That's what we want to see. You know, one of the reasons that I do this show is so that independent authors can put together a media kit, be interviewed, and prepare themselves to be interviewed. And then what we try to do is we send them out to as many, or I should say send the show link out to as many publishers as we can, literary agents. We try to get as many people involved because I don't want you folks to be independent. I want you to be with publishers so you don't have to spend all your time on Twitter and more time writing. And I can't take any credit for what you would accomplish here, but what is Britain's next bestseller?
That's a new concept, I think, for the UK. It's crowd-funded publishing. And basically what that means is they do the vetting, the pre-vetting that an agent would do in terms of the quality of the manuscripts they receive. And then they put it out to the public to ask them to pre-order on the strength of the package we put together as both publisher and author. So I have a target of the number of books I need to pre-order. When I meet that target, I then receive the publishing deal, and everything goes through in the traditional manner. But the sort of pre-ordering process is a sort of a proof of concept to demonstrate that I have an audience out there for my book. And it's the same with the others in the launch team. And I think there's about 20 of us out of maybe 3,000 or 4,000 manuscripts they've received. The 20 of us that have been invited to join the launch team. So I'm absolutely delighted, to be honest, and a little bit surprised. So I'm happy.
Why would you be surprised? Your work is good.
Well, thanks. It's this self-deprecatory thing that I'm never quite sure how well my work is received, and to have other people say it's great and buy, the self-published works, it's fine. But when a professional team say, yeah, we want to support you, and we want to push the boat out for you, that just makes a heck of a difference, really. I don't know. It's just an added bonus. Love it.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah,
I understand that. My daily show, every time a new station picks it up, I'm always thrilled because it's someone who wants your show. It's just like selling a book or having your book in a bookstore. They believe enough in you and what you're doing to air it on their station or to place that book up on their shelf. And obviously they want to profit from it too, and that's fair enough. But it's a kick, isn't it?
It's brilliant, and it's a sort of self-fulfillment, really, because they wouldn't want to put a Duff manuscript on their order list, on their pre-order list, because it reflects badly on them. So to have a very nice bunch of people support me and want to help, it's just sort of fantastic, really.
But you first have to sell the 250 pre-orders, though, right?
Yes, that's right. And that's one of the reasons why I contacted you recently and asked if we could do another one of these pods.
Well, that's awesome. Now, when will this begin? When does all this start? When do you have to start pre-ordering? Are you going to have like a special day where this begins, or a special event or anything like that?
Yes, well, the Britain's Next Bestseller website goes live on the 28th of March. That's 5 days, next Friday. And what we'll have on there is an idea. They'll explain the concept behind the impression. And each of the launch authors will have their own web page, author page within that, to explain the book, give a bio. I've got a little video on there of me explaining a little bit about, giving a synopsis about the book. And it will also show how many, what my pre-order target is. Now, I can tell you that now. It's 250 books, and the English price for the paperback is £8.99, because the book's quite a long one. It's not a short read. It's nearly 100,000 words. So obviously, the cost of printing is taken into consideration. So that works out. I did some maths actually. That works out at $14.87 in US. So I'm guessing that's a pretty standard. I've had a look, and that's pretty standard for a paperback. So, you know, it's a good price. And what happens is, the readers will take a look at the site. Hopefully, they'll decide which books they'd like to pre-order, place a pre-order, and then that goes towards the 250 I need to meet. And there are sorts of other benefits to placing pre-orders, like you get a link to me and we get to chat, and there are various other things on the website. And the good thing, the reason, although it's quite tricky to sell 250 books in a short period, I have 12 weeks to do this. If for any reason I don't meet the target, or any of the authors don't meet the target, the pre-order money is fully refunded without instantly. So there's no risk involved. Otherwise, I wouldn't have put my name forward to the project.
So in other words, the publishing deal is conditional, based on the orders. So you have an opportunity to be published. You just need to sell 250 pre-orders.
Minimum, yes, that's right. But I'm hoping to sell a lot more than that, because I've had quite a good feedback from my fans and people who've already asked, why can't I pre-order yet?
Now, where can they do this? Can they do this at your website?
Yeah, my website will have a link to the Britain's Next Bestseller website, and there'll be a button to push that will get you straight to my author page on the BNBS site. And as I said, all the details and will be on the site, so where you could talk to me and see the videos and everything, and it'll explain the whole process. And it's a very good concept for people like myself who've pretty beginner to the game, but we will get the support of this hub to work from, which is great. And of course, there's a sliding scale. Once I've hit the 250 target, the next level up gives me more of a promotions budget from the team, up to the stage where we get into the bestseller ranks, which is what I'm obviously dreaming of. But baby steps to begin with.
And that's the way it should be. You were 6 weeks ago. You were in the trick bag, because you were, without a publisher, without any hope of getting one. So things are moving well for you, and that's a very good thing. I'm very happy for you.
Thank you very much, Phil. But it all boils down to how good the manuscript is.
Absolutely. And I have not had the privilege of reading this manuscript yet because the author hasn't sent it to me yet.
Well, it was a bit short notice actually. This the whole concept. I mean, I first of all I have to ask. Now that I have a publisher, potential publisher, I have to ask. Just to check out that it's okay. I send advanced review copies,
Right.
and I didn't have a chance to send you one in time. I mean, I'm not being bashful.
That's okay. In this instance, I'm familiar with these people a little bit, and I've emailed with them a couple of times, so I don't think they're going to mind. But that's you take your time with that. Anyhow, is this a relief that you're finally being noticed and being published? Because you've been writing for a while, and I'm sure there were times when you figured or thought to yourself, sod this. I have to make a living and support my family. Is this a relief for you?
Yeah, it's one of those decisions where you think, as a writer, you think, oh, after so many rejections, sod it, I'll go it alone. A bit of the spoiled grapes thing, and to a certain degree, as a self-published author, although you've got to do everything yourself, you are your own boss, and you take a full whack of whatever you make. But being alone is lonely, and you get nobody except friends. And I can't pay for an editor, for example. So my editor, the one who helps me most, she's doing it she volunteers her services, and I do a quid pro quo arrangement with her. But obviously, with the publisher behind me, I will get that support. But once I've tricked over the minimum requirements issue, so yes, it's really helpful to have somebody at the back. So I didn't I didn't go along the traditional publishing route lightly, but the BNBS service, I think, offers me the best, because to be honest, their royalty deal is superb compared to the industry standard. And I keep all the rights to the books, unlike the traditional publishers who hold the rights to any of the books they host. In the main, I'm talking general. They keep it for the life of the author plus 70 years. Now, Britain's Next Bestseller allow me to keep my own rights, and they give pretty well the best royalty cut on the market, what I've ever seen anyway, which is 50% of all net, which is significantly better than most of the publishing contracts I've ever read.
And now they will market the book for you too, so you don't have to spend all your day on Twitter retweeting the same link 25 times a day?
Initially, I mean, all published, from what I understand from my my traditionally published friends, is that no matter how big the publisher, the traditional publisher, the author still has to do a hell of a load of work, promotion work, because gone are the days of the huge magic bullet promotions budget, unless your name happens to be George Clooney and you're releasing an autobiography where they'll throw big bucks at it. But for an unnamed author, or in the UK it would be David Beckham, I guess. But for an unknown author, they don't put a big budget out. So more and more the traditional players are asking authors to do what self-published authors have always had to do anyway. So it's a little bit. It's a difficult decision. I mean, I'm still having to do a lot of promotion work, but you're right. Once I've proven that the issue that I can sell books, and I have sold books anyway. But once I've proven that issue, then there's less of a risk for the publisher to put the money in. Yeah.
Well, right, of course. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
That makes sense. I mean, they're running a business after all. It's not a charity, so they need to. That 250 baseline limit covers their initial impression costs, so there isn't a risk.
See, that's perfect. So yeah, you produce, and they deliver.
Yeah, absolutely right. And they help me to deliver. Obviously, if things did take off, they hold first dibs on international sales as well. So let's say, for example, the transition of Johnny Swift did take off and make a big hit, they might then decide to say, okay, let's see what we can do about promoting this in America. So they will then have the opportunity to take that on, but I will get the same royalty cut no matter where they sell through. And if it turned out to be something like the Harry Potter with the little figurines and a TV show or films, and obviously BNBS get the first opportunity to market. I'm talking grandiose plans here, but you know what I mean.
Well, why not?
We can all dream.
Why not? That's part of the deal, you know.
Yeah, that's right. I mean,
J.K. Rowling, look what happened to her.
Exactly right, exactly so. And she had far more rejections than I ever had to begin with. I mean, I've been lucky so far.
This was your first pitch, right?
Well, in effect, yeah, it was the first serious one I've done. I've sent out for Ellis Flynn, that's the second in the casebook series. I sent out 8, or was it 12? Can't remember now. Query letters, and I received 4 rejections, and the other 8, if there were ignored. So I thought, that's a bit rude. I don't like that. I'll carry on. And everything took too long as well. That's another thing about BNBS, because they insist on the 250 pre-orders to demonstrate that they can sell the book. They also promise, once the pre-order timetable has completed, they will publish within the following 12 weeks. All right? So that people who place a pre-order on day 1 don't have to wait 2 years to get a book, which I think is fantastic, because the big guys take ages to put a book out.
No, that makes sense, but the big guys have a lot of more options. They have only 20 right now, so that makes sense. But they're just getting started. I mean, that's how it works.
Yeah, before, you see, what happened was somebody put one of my great mates in Australia, who's always on surfing the web. She found a link to BNBS, Britain's Next bestseller, who were calling for submissions. And there wasn't a genre issue either. They were quite widespread in their fiction. So I was sent this link, and on the link it said, we need completely finished and professionally edited manuscripts by a certain date. I think it was the 1st of March. And Johnny Swift wasn't ready. And that's where the surprise I talked about earlier came out. I mean, I didn't think that the book was ready in that form. So I emailed Muriel at BNBS and said, look, it's not going to be ready, I don't think, by the 1st of March. So I won't actually send you the manuscript. And she said, oh, please do if you think it's ready. There's no fault. But we could delay, you can pitch it any time after that, because we're open. I think they're going to be continually open to new submissions, which is another point in their favour. So at the end, I mean, mad panic. My last trip to the UK, I spent the whole fortnight up till about 3 a.m. editing, sort of fielding the edits from my Australian and my Canadian editor, feeding those changes back into the manuscript. And I still wasn't absolutely happy with it on the deadline date when I submitted it. So I was quite happy, almost expecting a rejection. But the next day, BNBS said, yeah, we'd love to go with it, thank you. And for that speed of turnaround, and it wasn't just, she demonstrated to me that she'd read the first 3 chapters and the last chapter as well by the way she discussed it. Obviously, she didn't have time to read the whole book, and you wouldn't expect her to. But, that sort of, she promised she did what she promised she would do. So that, gave me some good vibes for the whole process. And in fact, they've done that all the way through. Whatever they've said they're going to do, they've done it. And that's not an experience you always get in the professional world, I can assure you.
Nope, you sure can't. That's for sure. Well, we're really happy for you now.
Thank you.
You've done two books already. You've published two books. The first one was the DCI Jones casebook, Raymond Francis Collins. Now, what's that book about in a nutshell?
But that's part of my casebook series, which is a crime thriller based on the main character, who is Detective Chief Inspector David Jones. He's a 50-something experienced detective, and he's based in Birmingham. And now and again, he tells me about an interesting case that I might like to write up, but I have to change the names to protect the guilty and the innocent. So the Raymond Francis Collins. Oh, I've got a little addition to that actually that nobody knows about but my closest friends. Raymond Francis Collins, which is now currently hitting the bestseller ranks in Amazon. That I've actually written a sequel to that will come out probably the year after next. In 2015, to find out what happens next. So anybody who's read that little novelette and knows the ending, who then thinks the sequel is Ellis Flynn, my second book, have a surprise coming because Raymond Francis Collins is coming back. So that's that, and that won't be a casebook. That will be something entirely different. That will be a science-based thriller, or what's now called lab thriller, laboratory thriller. So, I mean, that's the stop press news you've heard today. I don't think anybody else knows that.
Well, good. We look forward to that. Now, Ellis Flynn was your second book.
Yes, thank you.
And again, it's the same thing, right? It's the DCI Jones casebook series, yeah. Ellis Flynn. And we talked about that on my show. And tell us a little bit about Ellis Flynn.
Ellis Flynn grooms a teenage girl, Holly Jardine, and kidnaps her. And so she's a missing teenager case, as is unfortunately happens quite a lot in current day. And David Jones and his special crimes unit, serious crimes unit, is asked when is on the case, and he through let's say a combination of modern and traditional policing techniques or skills, i.e. David Jones does not surf the internet, does not know about IT, but his subordinates do. So working together, they discover where Ellis Flynn has taken Holly, and it turns out that she's been abducted and taken to France. So part of the book takes place in Birmingham, and the middle section of the book takes place in France, where I'm based now, and the final third takes place back in, well, I don't want to give too much away because that's a good book, and I don't want to give away too many spoilers. But I've had some fantastic feedback since we last spoken to you, and some good sales. So yeah, things are happening. So I haven't ditched the casebook series, because there are 3 more books in the pipeline at the very least, and a prequel set in 1975 when DCI Jones was a constable. So those are already part written, but I've paused that now to put all my emphasis and all my concentration onto the transition of Johnny Swift, which will be a series if it's popular, because there's an awful lot. We'll talk about that in a minute, won't we? I think.
Yeah, we can talk about that now. In fact, so now the transition of Johnny Swift.
Yeah,
that's a big departure from what the DCI Jones casebook series is all about. How did it come to be?
Well, I'm a member of an online authors group, and there are challenges we put each other to just change up, ramp up a bit, write a short story, write a flash fiction, write a biographical piece, just for fun. And one of the groups on there was a horror group that deals with that sort of paranormal type stuff. Now, I'm not a great fan of horror, and I don't read many horror books because I don't find them particularly horrific at my age, because I've read quite a bit, So I was doodling on the phone one day. You know, when you get that horrible electronic music while you're on call waiting. And oh God, I was trying to talk to the bank to get some money across from England into France. Takes forever sometimes. And I was actually doodling hard, old school, with a pen and paper, and the title came up. I don't know where it came from. I just joggled it down. I put the word transition next to the most inane name I could think of, Johnny Swift. Now, to me at the time, it sounded like the character sounded like a 1970s motorcycle trick rider. You know, the guy that jumps over canyons. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to mention his name, but that sort of figure, Johnny Swift. Now, I didn't want to write about that sort of character, but I liked the title. And from the title, I started writing. And the book's main character his name is actually Frank Brazier, Fiery Frank Brazier. And he's a racing driver in a junior race series, the F2500 Championship, which is a series I made up for the book. But his goal is to make the Formula One big time. And at the start of the book, I have him sitting in the cockpit of his car at the pole position at the start of the final race of the season. And he has to win the race. Well, he doesn't even have to win the race. He's so far ahead, there's only one guy in the race that can pip him for the championship. And all he needs is 1 point. But he hasn't told anybody, his family or friends, that for the previous 4 or 5 months, he sees something that can't be there. He sees a vision, an image that can't exist, and he's worried that he's got a brain tumor or he's going mad. He can't tell anybody. And at the start of the final race of the season, this thing, who he's called the Shadow Man, because it looks a little bit like a shadow, but it isn't, it's grey and transparent, is sitting on the nose cone of his car. And during the race, this thing is trying to put him off, and he can't understand. You know how during when you're driving, not that I've ever driven in a race, but when you're driving, you need your concentration, and this thing seems to be trying to put him off. Anyway, that was the basic concept of the book, and it moves on from there to place where Frank really doesn't want to be. He is injured in a crash, but it's not a car crash. Very early on in the book, so there's no spoilers, and I've mentioned this in my video, in the video promo. There's a train crash, and he ends up in hospital, strapped to his hospital bed, blind. He's got bandages around his eyes, he's scarred, he's broken, bones, terrible headache, and he hears voices. And the voices he hears can't be there because they're not real voices. They don't sound the same as the nurses and his girlfriend who are by his bedside. And then he learns that his traveling companion on the train, his sister Paula, she's in the room next door, but she's on life support, and the doctors have diagnosed brain death, and they want to turn off the life support because Paula has signed an organ donor card, and in her wishes she wants to give up her organs when she's dead. And Frank's father and everybody else wants to accede to Paula's wishes, but one of the voices Frank hears in his head is from Paula.
Sounds fascinating, boy, I tell you.
Well, I take it from there to put Frank through the ringer, actually, and I've had a couple of, quite a bit of feedback from advanced review copy reviewers who've been very kind and said it's character study rather than a straight out horror and psychological thriller. Fits the bill better than horror, and that's what we're selling the genre as. Although, as you know from my background from the last time we talked about, from our last interview, my background, or part of my background, is I'm a scientist. So I use science. In science, the scientific world informs a lot of my writing. And exactly the same thing happens in the transition of Johnny Swift. So there you go.
Sounds terrific. Now,
thank you.
Once again, how can people pre-order this book?
Okay, just to remind you, then we're on my website, which I understand you'll be showing the link to my new website. Yeah.
Absolutely, it will be in the show notes. It'll also be in the YouTube video.
Brilliant. Well, on my website there will be a link. I've got a special page on new releases about the book, and in there will be a link to the Britain's Next Bestseller website, and that'll go straight to my page where there will be all the bump and the video I talked about, and the link to how you can pre-order. And so it's quite straightforward. I don't know the actual details, whether it's a PayPal or a credit card arrangement, but you set your pre-order, and there'll be a little sliding bar to show the readers how I've been, how successful how many pre-orders I've had, and it will also tell the readers what other benefits they have. I mean, one of the benefits, for example, is all the people who pre-order will receive the paperback 2 weeks before anybody else does, so they have a chance to read and review it. And there are other advantages, and there's a prize ticket, and there's all sorts. It's all on the BNBS website, which you can get through my website.
And there's also a Facebook launch.
Yes. There's the BNBS books. That's actually the Facebook address. It's BNBS books. Hit enter when you're in Facebook. That'll take you to the site, and it'll show you about. It'll tell you all the other authors that are on it, and it's a mixed bag actually. It's very interesting that they haven't just stuck to one genre. There are children's books in there, and there's a fantastic psychological thriller in there as well. Yeah.
And that's called The Transition of Johnny Swift.
Oh, how did you know?
I did know. Of course I did. Now, here's the thing. Now, this is on March the 31st?
No, March the 28th.
March 28th. So when you're listening to this, you hit that link.
Yes, please.
And then you go over there and pre-order this book.
Please.
And in 6 months, you'll get it back, and Kerry will get himself a publishing deal because he works really hard and deserves it. And everybody will be happy. I tell you what, I wish you a lot of luck with this, Kerry. Good luck. Thank you so much for being on the show. You come back and let us know how you did.
Thanks very much indeed for having me, Phil. Always a pleasure.
My pleasure, too. Thank you. That was author Kerry Donovan. You can find him over at www.kerryjdonovan, that's DONOVAN.com. Pick up The Transition of Johnny Swift while you're over there. Grab his DCI case book series. Those are great books. I've had the privilege of reading at least one of those, and I think you'll enjoy it too. And that's going to close this edition of the Writer Showcase podcast. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, or would you like to support the work being done, because these guys, the more famous they get, the more money it costs me in bandwidth, let us know. You can click that donate link or click that contact Phil link, and we will get you on the show right away. Until next time, I'm Phil Mason. Enjoy the reading.